Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. I'm Jessica Goldberg, and I'm so glad that you're here with us for today's fireside chat, from dashboards to data-driven decisions, the evolving role of technology in legal marketing and BD. This series is brought to you by Society 54, and it's really inspired by the work that we're doing with Inform 54. Our platform, which is built specifically to help legal marketing and business development teams use data and technology to work smarter, move faster, and really show the impact of what they're doing more clearly. As the legal industry continues to embrace innovation, we're finding it's never been more important for marketing and business development teams to connect their work with measurable results. And that's why I'm thrilled. And that's really what is at the heart of Tech Tuesday: candid, practical conversations with forward-thinking leaders about data, technology, and how AI are transforming how we operate in this space. No slides, no lectures, just real talk with real innovators. And that's why I'm thrilled to be joined today by one of those innovators, Jennifer Scotton. She's Chief Marketing Officer at Constangy. And Jennifer brings more than 20 years of experience leading marketing and business development strategy. She's not only shaping growth from the inside, but she's really been a passionate advocate for elevating the role of legal marketing across the industry. If you have any questions during today's conversation, please feel free to drop them into the chat, and we're going to get to as many as we can throughout the conversation. And don't worry, we'll share a link to the recording afterward in case you want to revisit any part of today's session. So with that, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive in. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to start our chat by talking a little bit about the playing field that we're all operating in. So as someone who's really helping shape marketing and BD strategy at a national level, can you describe where, from your perspective, where our industry is today when it comes to leveraging technology?
Yeah. So I kind of think of the legal industry as like the friend that refuses to use anything other than a flip phone in the age of smartphones, right? Like you get very frustrated with it at times because it seems like legal's a bit behind. And slightly resistant to change, but I do feel like we're seeing a shift to more data-driven strategy and decision making, and firms being more willing to adopt technology than they had been in the past. And really, I think AI has been a huge driver in that, because at first they were all resistant and it seemed like, oh, well, we won't have to do this if nobody else does this. And then firms started adopting it. And I'm very fortunate to be at a firm that has been embracing that since early on, since ChatGPT went mainstream. The clients are going to start asking more for this. And so the firms that are staying kind of steadfast in their ways are going to be left behind by the firms that are saying, okay, new technology, yes, let's do it. Where else can we incorporate this that will help us better serve our clients? But I do think the challenge is going to be integrating this into current workflows without kind of creating a mutiny across the board.
I think that's a really good point. That's actually kind of a great segue into our next question, which is, how do you really cultivate a culture of that on your team? Something that embraces experimentation with the new tools and the different ways of working, because we certainly all get set in our ways.
Yes, yes, yes. So I kind of equate this to building that culture of innovation is like planting and tending a garden. So you plant the seeds, you provide the right environment with the sunlight and the water and that sort of thing, and then you occasionally have to pull some weeds there, yes. But again, my firm has been very supportive of it from the beginning, and I have never been more grateful for that than when I went to the LMA conference, and so many of my team members came back and said, I really feel like we are ahead of the game with this. I feel good about where our team stands, given some of the things that were presented, which was really validating, because I do try to lead by example, encourage my team to explore new methodologies and new technologies, and really foster an environment where experimentation is welcomed. And for the most part, failure is seen as learning opportunities. I think it was Seth Godin that says, that said, he who fails the most wins, because the sooner you're failing at something, the quicker or the earlier on that you're learning about it and finding ways that you can recalibrate. So, we have kind of regular training sessions. We share tips in our weekly team meetings. And I encourage our teams to just find new tools wherever and whenever they can. And I'll provide some suggestions about that later. But in fact, we just finished our annual reviews at Constangy and with my team specifically, and I think pretty much every single person had an annual goal about AI and how to incorporate it better, or how to figure out other ways to use it in their workflow and the team's workflow. And I always encourage suggestions of how we can improve incorporating that for our team.
That's phenomenal. I think that's not only a great takeaway for your team members working within your department, but also for some other managers and directors overseeing teams on this call today, because I think it's also easy to get settled in our ways, and you're doing a great job of pushing that envelope with your team. So
Thank
that's really
you.
fantastic. Kind of along those lines, one of the hangups that we often have is not necessarily within our marketing and BD teams, but with the firm itself embracing the role of technology and AI. How instrumental were you in kind of helping push that forward with your firm? Were you helping develop an AI policy? What did you do internally to foster that?
Well, Jessica, it's almost like we met to discuss these questions before, because I did indeed help with that. So I work very closely with the chair of our executive committee and our general counsel and administrative officer. That's our administrative partner, rather. That's one role together, and they are all about using as much AI as they can. And so I worked with them on preparing the policy. I took a look and said, what seems fitting, where we might need to add something. That being said, I'm not a lawyer, not a policy writer, but I do know a little bit about the practical uses of it. So we included that. We included much of that information. And as that policy was generally written for lawyers, like most firms are doing, they're writing their AI policy for the lawyers. My team and I were working on developing an AI usage policy for ourselves so that we can make sure, we're using it in the most ethical fashion, and people aren't going overboard in terms of thinking that, we can use AI so far across the board, and maybe just as soon as we get the output, we move that on. No, we all know that you have to touch it, you have to tweak it, you have to edit it once something is generated by AI. And I don't think that will change in the very near future, that it needs to be reviewed and tweaked. It still needs that human touch.
That's great. Well, you alluded to this earlier about using certain tools to help your team out in that regard. I know you've used some platforms to bring more structure and visibility to your business development efforts. Can you talk about what impact that's had on how your team prioritizes work, but also collaborates with the attorneys?
Yes. So if you've been in a conference session with me anytime recently, I apologize, but I'm going to sound like a broken record, because I do want to give a plug for Inform54 here. It has really helped turn our BD efforts into a bit of an orchestrated symphony. And if you don't know what Inform54 is, I know Jessica had a little intro for it at the beginning of the call, but it's a gamified growth enablement platform for law firms that was built by the founders at Society 54. And it allows lawyers to put in marketing and business development goals for the year and then track activities back to it. So the way that I think that my firm is using it is slightly different than some other firms might be using, because when I joined the firm, we had an associate marketing teams program. It was already established. The big shtick was like, win a all-inclusive trip. But spoiler alert, it's a gift card. So and it had been established for several years. So with that, and then the former CMO had been here, I think 23 years when I joined. And in between the leadership changes, the program languished a little bit. And so we said, what can we do to re-energize this program? Also, what can we do to make managing this business development program much easier on the marketing team? And I see Christine on my team is on this call today. Hi, Constangy folks. Thanks for being here. It was kind of crazy because people were submitting like PDF forms with their monthly points, and it was misery for the team leaders who are partners to chase down their team members to get those reports. And then there wasn't really a central repository that was easy for them to go back and see, like, okay, so and so said they have this goal. Have they actually done anything to get to this goal at the end of the year? So with the lawyers inputting their information on INform54, we worked with Jessica to customize the point system. So we literally just get generated reports every month now from Jessica, and we can see that leaderboard anytime we want to. And I didn't really think like, oh, it's going to be crazy, the friendly competition, or that it would be, quite frankly, amusing for my team to witness. But it's been really interesting. It's been really funny. And some of the team leader partners that have facilitated maybe previously weren't as into doing, collaborative group effort business development, but even they have been picking up in that area. And I say that is, them being able to have more insight into what the associates on their teams and other teams are doing, because the team leaders can actually see what all information their associates are putting in. But we've started leveraging it for another use case, which is our mentorship program at the firm. The mentorship program is fairly new, but I think at all firms we're struggling to have this mentorship program that doesn't feel contrived, that's very natural, and that everyone is actually like truly engaged in. And so we're also using INform54 to run our mentorship program, which I think is really, really cool. And it gives our integration and engagement specialist at the firm, who does not sit on my team, she's on the HR team, but she has better insight into what people are doing, who is meeting with their mentee, and if there's somebody else that's requiring a little bit of support, she can kind of pinpoint that there and work to provide them that support, which is just another thing that's leading to the great culture at Constangy. So I think that has been a really great addition to our team.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I always love hearing about how different firms are utilizing the tools differently. And you guys have really latched on to the attorney facing side of the platform. And then the other firms that we work with are really working a lot with a project management and reporting side for the marketing and business development teams themselves. But it's so interesting to see how people are finding success with applying the different tools. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Kind of speak along those lines too. I think we should also be able to give some visibility to some other tools and things out there. Do you have any other specific tools that you guys are finding success with, or specific use cases for how you're utilizing those?
Yes, yes. AI is a bit of a Swiss Army knife for us, right? It's versatile. It's become indispensable for me personally, and just like a Swiss Army knife, if you accidentally leave it open in your pocket, occasionally quite surprising. So we're exploring a lot of different AI-driven tools. For content creation is always the obvious one, but we're also using it for RFP and pitch opportunities to kind of synthesize an RFP, obviously not the confidential pieces, but synthesizing that. You can even upload the potential client's annual report and say, synthesize this report, give me recommendations on where my firm could assist them. And if there's anything, unexpected that we might be able to pitch to them that maybe they didn't specifically mention, or other services we want to make sure we mention so that they know that we do them. And you can also, like if you're using ChatGPT or something for that, you can create a made up firm profile so that it's not your firm, but characteristics are similar, so that you can still leverage that tool if you don't have something like case text or anything like that internally that you could use. So that's really helped us tailor our strategies quite a bit more. And we're looking at as many tools as we possibly can to integrate AI. So like we had been using Basecamp, but we're now exploring using something like ClickUp. I think Asana and ClickUp both have AI built in now, but to be able to get more out of our project management tools or something like that. And, predictive analytics is another one, but also video editing, design work, all of those kind of things. So if it's okay with you, Jessica, I wanted to share with everybody just a few of the tools that I really like in
Sure.
case that would be helpful. So our most exciting, most recent development has been Opus Clip. So you can upload your video or you can provide it with the URL for a video that you own, and it will synthesize the content and shorten it into little snackable clips in all different sizes. So it'll have, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. Christine chiming in with, it is amazing. Thank you, Christine. Does it in all different formats. You can even tell it what theme you want it to focus on, and it'll create those short form clips based on that theme. Pictory, Synthesia are a couple of tools that generate video from text. So you can input your outline or script and it creates a video for you. I will say you will have to touch the images that it chooses, because sometimes it's not the most on point of what I would choose for my brand. But another one is Notebook LM. I know Jill loves to talk about this one, and it really does a lot of different things, but you can input your content. It'll actually create a podcast out of your content that's two people talking back and forth. Nancy Merlin chiming in. Thank you, Nancy. Notebook LM is wonderful. And it sounds so realistic. Somebody had sent me one before I started using that tool, and I listened to it probably 4 times because I was like, is this AI? He didn't tell me whether it was or not. And then I was like, okay, it's got to be AI. So anyway, it can also summarize content for you, and you can listen to the content, all that sort of thing. Lots of possibilities. 11 Labs will generate AI voices for you, or you can even clone your own voice. But I actually prefer Speechify for voice cloning, and it gives you a lot of different sort of intonations. You can have the person be more neutral, more excited, that sort of thing. Aiter.io is another one I really like. AITER.io. It's a great one for brand support because you can put in your website URL. It'll create all these documents about your brand. It can suggest PR campaigns. It can suggest ad campaigns. There's really, I feel like I haven't even gotten to the bottom of all the things you can do with that tool yet. And these are all pretty fairly inexpensive. Another is, so for any kind of presentation, if you wanted to use AI to generate a presentation, Visme and Beautiful.ai are some AI-based presentation builders. And I will say that with both of them, I think, as with most AI, the more you use it, the better it gets, because it gets to learn, your preferences and things like that. So those are great tools as well. I mentioned ClickUp and Asana earlier. They're great for project management, and I've really liked ClickUp for its ability to automate tasks. And I used to use a tool called Motion. I think it's Motion.ai, but it's a calendar where you can provide it with all your appointments or the things you need to get done that day, and it automatically assigns them based on information that you've put in. For instance, I'm better in the morning, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm basically useless. And it won't schedule the things you need to think about in the afternoon. So there are also a couple of great sites that I wanted to recommend to the listeners today. Yeah, so I have not tried Monday.com, but I have heard wonderful things about it. And I do work with some service partners that are leveraging Monday.com, and I've been very impressed by the outputs that it's given us, Kelsey. So sites that aggregate new tools so that you can learn about them. There's one called, there's an AI for that. And then there's another called AI Tool Spy. And I'm sure Nancy has some more suggestions that she can provide us in the chat, and I would love to hear those. Let's crowdsource this for sure. But ultimately, like I said, all of your outputs are going to have to be touched by you to get them to where you need them to be.
I think at the beginning of your conversation, you talked about AI being kind of like a Swiss Army knife. And I was thinking that as you're kind of going through this list of different tools that you're using, how on earth are you able to keep up with these? And how do you evaluate what's kind of hype versus what's actually going to be useful, specifically too in a legal marketing context? Because we're a little different than some of the other marketing and BD fields.
Indeed, indeed. And it's kind of like navigating the AI landscape is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack, and the haystack is also on fire because someone has doused it in gasoline. It's not like oh, it's a cigarette, it's a match, somebody accidentally threw in there. No, it's gasoline, it's burning. So to cut through that, I try to focus on the challenges that we are working to solve. So does this help us work smarter? Does it free up time for strategic thinking? Is it going to enhance attorney engagement or generate value for our clients? And if the answer is yes, it's absolutely worth exploring. And we pilot AI tools in kind of a small, low risk way before we scale that at all. So that could be experimenting with some content suggestions or automating some reporting, testing those predictive analytics like I mentioned earlier, but it gives us room there to learn, to adapt, and then also ultimately avoid chasing the latest shiny object just because it's trending. At the end of the day, useful AI in legal marketing is the kind that's going to integrate into your workflow, making your team more agile and help you tell a clearer story about the impact that the marketing team is having, because hype fades, but
Yes.
those outcomes stick.
Yes. Jennifer, I see we have one question here. Any suggestions for good headshot AI tools?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. So one that we have been using is Aragon AI, ARAGON.ai. And we are actually using that tool. We're redesigning our website right now, launching with FirmSeek later this summer. Hi to Swati, who I think is on the call. Thank you. We appreciate you. And all of our attorney headshots will be created through that. You can also work with them to create background, like custom backgrounds. One of the concerns that we wanted to address with them, with all of our lawyers having their photos go through that, is ensuring that we don't have the same outfits over and over and over. We've never really had issues with the backgrounds being different, but we do have several of our lawyers on our website who are in a beautiful cream colored suit with a cream colored shirt. And yeah, that's another one that that's another issue that we have, but we love it. It's so good.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I actually did, Nancy said the firm uniform. Sorry, Nancy, I couldn't read all of your other one, but I know that Jessica will read our questions at the end. So the backgrounds, we've gotten customized with them. Some of the clothing. I had actually done these AI photos in October of 23. And when I got the results back, there were some that I was like, yeah, that pretty much looks like me. One, I had a random like headset earphone on. It was only on the one side. Today it's hiding behind my hair, but it was definitely not that in the photo. I had some kind of like Starfleet uniform looking things that I had on. And I was like, yeah, can't use that. Why am I wearing a medal? But just a year later, incredibly different. If any of you saw my headshot for the PR for this, that's from Aragon. And also the one on my LinkedIn profile, but we love it.
That's fantastic. Well, I think we have a lot of comments just supporting some of the tools that you've mentioned so far, but please don't be bashful. If anyone's on the call and you want to ask Jennifer some questions about anything she's talking about, please feel free to type them into the chat and we'll take a pause, or we can save them from the end as well. But Jennifer, you have gone through a lot of tools here, but from my experience, then you end up with kind of this massive data. What do you do with it all? Are you using any kind of dashboard? And how does that become more useful to your team over just looking at various reports and numbers?
Yes, I love a good dashboard. Love it. And I think dashboards in law firms have evolved over the last several years. At first, they sort of seemed like data junk drawers, but now they're more of like a strategic command center. Because early on, it was more about like visibility for the sake, or tracking activity for the sake of that visibility. But over time, it's become clear how much they can help us, and that those can help us be more focused and intentional and aligned with the firm's business goals. And truly, my team prioritizes tools that have dashboards built in. So because that will really help you save time, and you're not having to interpret any of the data so much. You can take a look at what's there and make faster decisions about where we might need to pivot or reposition or something like that. It really shows you where you're gaining traction. And one that I suggest for that actually is Metricool for social media, because it's a social media management platform, but it also has those dashboards built in. So you don't have to go in and try to piece it together from all the different sources where their analytics are all in different places and in different types. I wanted to also add here that so a few years ago when I had first joined Constangy, I spoke with Jason Kennedy while he was at Collaborate, Calibrate, sorry. And he was telling me about data lakes and using Power BI. And so it took a year, but I did get our IT team to finally give access to my team to Power BI so that we can use that to kind of drill down on our data. So we're just now beginning to build that out for ourselves. And we're a firm of 250 lawyers. We have 8 people on the marketing team. So if you are at a smaller firm, don't give up hope and keep pushing for that so that you can gain access to a tool like that too, because many firms have it already included in their package.
That's a really good point. Jennifer, we also have another question that came in from Megan Henry. Do you know of any AI tools for helping with knowledge management, specifically tagging matters and industries appropriately when a new matter is opened in your intake system?
You know what? Let me see here. I actually happen to have something like this up. So I personally don't use these, but 2 that I've read about were Notion AI and Guru. So check those out and see if either one of those would work for you. And please shoot me an email and let me know, because I would be interested in how other people are able to leverage those.
I have to add one to that, Jennifer. I recently came across or was introduced to a new platform called Clerk, Klerq. I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's up and coming, and that might be another one for folks to take a look at.
Fantastic.
Okay, so I know we're getting close on our time here. I wanted to talk a little bit with you about kind of your implementation strategy. And what do you think is your most successful approach for rolling out some new tech platforms, especially, and it sounds like your firm is very forward thinking, but maybe there are some firms out there that are a little bit more tech cautious. So how do you make sure that new implementation is successful?
I think the most successful strategy is really involving those stakeholders early in the process and gathering input, addressing concerns proactively. I am a huge fan of the pilot group, and also being very strategic about who you select to be involved in that pilot group, because you want to make sure that you have people that are going to be evangelists for that product and sing the praises in the firm, and they have that influence to make an impact that way. But also you want to have people in there that are going to be a pain. They're going to ask the tough questions, because you can ferret that out before you roll it out to the entire firm, and that will really help you be more successful in the long run. And another that I learned, fortunately not because of my own rollout, was the importance of comprehensive training and support to ensure that you have smooth adoption and minimize that resistance.
That is really good advice. I think everybody can take heed of that. You're so much on the forefront of all of these different tools and things. What are there any trends that you think are just people can't afford to ignore as you're looking ahead for the next year to year and a half? And what advice would you have for people in that regard in terms of data and AI?
Well, I think this is going to shock all of you, but I'm going to say AI. Um, that's our obvious one. It's reshaping the way that we do our jobs just period in general. But I also think there's a bigger shift around client expectations there, because clients are going to be asking for it, especially your sophisticated clients. And they're wanting their firms to behave even more like business partners and less like a quote unquote vendor. So that means more reporting, more proactive communication, and yes, also more tech enabled insights. Personalization at scale, I think, is going to be another one. Clients don't just want great service, they want very tailored experiences that feel relevant and timely for them. And then finally, I'm going to say, an oldie but a goodie, don't sleep on your internal marketing, because as your teams are evolving, even more remote work is persisting, getting attorneys engaged, informed, and excited about what we're doing takes thoughtful internal communications and brand building. Because sometimes your biggest marketing challenge is not the client or potential client, it's the partner down the hall.
That's really great advice. Well, I know we're at time for today, but Jennifer, I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing all of your experience and tools and perspectives with us. It's been such a thoughtful and energizing conversation. And to everybody who joined us here today, we hope that you have some fresh insights and a few actionable takeaways that you can take back to your team then. And if you found today helpful, just stay tuned because we're going to be doing some more Tech Tuesday sessions coming up. And we'll keep these conversations going with some more incredible guests and topics at the intersection of legal marketing and business development and innovation. And if anyone has any special requests on topics, please feel free to email me too. We'd love to hear from everybody. So thanks again for spending part of your day with us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.